Welcome to my channel, dear listeners. We are making a serious effort to create these contents. In return for the effort, please follow us. If you are ready, our story begins. Elena Vasquez's arrival at the Kepler research station had been routine enough: standard transport docking, efficient customs processing, and the usual orientation briefing about working with non-human colleagues in xenobiology research. What hadn't been routine was meeting her assigned research partner, who appeared to be approximately half Elena's height and possessed the bone structure of someone built from crystalline mathematics rather than evolutionary biology. "You must be Elena," said the diminutive alien woman, her pointed ears twitching with what Elena was learning to recognize as Zephyrian expressions of curiosity. "I am Dr. Zara, comparative biology specialist. I have been looking forward to our research collaboration." Elena shifted her standard research pack to offer a handshake, noting that Zara barely reached her shoulder despite appearing to be a fully grown adult member of her species. "Dr. Vasquez. Pleased to meet you. I'm excited to begin work on the evolutionary adaptation comparative study." Zara stared at Elena's extended hand, then at the research pack, then back at Elena's face with an expression that seemed to cycle through scientific curiosity, amazement, and what might have been medical concern. "That equipment container you are carrying," she said slowly, "how much does it weigh?" "The research pack. Maybe 15 kilograms. Standard field equipment, data tablets, sample containers, analysis tools, emergency supplies." Elena adjusted the pack's shoulder straps, noting that Zara was watching the movement with the kind of fascination usually reserved for observing impossible physics demonstrations. "Nothing too heavy." 15 kilograms, Zara repeated, her bioluminescent skin patterns shifting to colors that Elena's cultural briefing suggested indicated shock or disbelief. "You are carrying 15 kilograms of equipment as if it were nothing." "Well, it's not nothing, but it's not particularly heavy either. Standard hiking pack weight for field research." Elena looked around the station's corridor, noting that the other Zephyrian researchers were beginning to gather and observe their conversation with obvious interest. "Is there something wrong?" "Wrong?" Zara moved closer, her delicate features showing the kind of scientific fascination that Elena recognized from her own research into particularly interesting biological phenomena. "Elena, the maximum load capacity for a healthy Zephyrian adult is approximately 3 kilograms. You are casually carrying 5 times our species' theoretical weight limit." Elena blinked, processing this information while becoming aware that their conversation had attracted an audience of alien researchers who were studying her like she was an interesting specimen that had just violated several laws of physics. 5 times your theoretical weight limit? "Theoretical maximum for emergency situations involving survival necessity," Zara clarified, beginning to walk around Elena in a slow circle while taking notes on a data tablet that appeared to be made from the same crystalline material as most Zephyrian technology. "Normal daily carrying capacity for most individuals is closer to 1 kilogram. 1 kilogram. Elena looked at her research pack, then at the assembled Zephyrian scientists who were now openly documenting what appeared to be her casual violation of their understanding of biological mechanics. "You're telling me that what I consider a light load for hiking is 15 times what you would normally carry?" 15 times normal capacity, 5 times emergency maximum, Zara confirmed, her note-taking becoming increasingly detailed as she observed Elena's posture and movement patterns. "How is this possible? Are you suffering from some form of metabolic disorder that requires excessive muscle development? Is your bone density abnormally high due to medical treatment?" "I'm not suffering from anything. This is normal human physiology." Elena began to suspect that her cultural briefing had not adequately prepared her for the degree of physical difference between human and Zephyrian capabilities. "Are you telling me that your species has significantly different strength and endurance characteristics than humans?" "Our species has normal strength and endurance characteristics," Zara replied, though her tone suggested that "normal" might be a relative concept. "Your species appears to have strength and endurance characteristics that exceed biological necessity by factors that suggest either genetic modification or severe environmental adaptation pressures." Elena looked around at the gathering crowd of alien researchers, all of whom appeared to be built with the same delicate bone structure and fine muscle definition that made them look like they'd been designed by engineers who prioritized elegance over raw power. When you say, exceed biological necessity, what exactly do you mean? I mean that your casual carrying capacity suggests muscle mass and bone density that would be required for survival in gravitational fields approximately 5 times stronger than what your species actually evolved in, Zara explained, her scientific analysis making Elena feel like an interesting but potentially dangerous biological anomaly. Such adaptations typically indicate evolutionary pressure from extreme environmental conditions. Earth isn't exactly an extreme environment, Elena said, though she was beginning to wonder whether human physical capabilities were as universal as she'd always assumed. We're adapted for normal terrestrial gravity, standard atmospheric composition, typical planetary survival challenges. Elena, Zara said gently, as if explaining complex concepts to someone who might be suffering from mild brain damage, what you describe as normal terrestrial gravity is 9.8 meters per second squared. Most inhabited worlds maintain gravitational fields between 6 and 8 meters per second squared. Your planet's gravity exceeds galactic median by approximately 23%. Elena felt pieces of information clicking together in ways that suggested her understanding of normal, human capabilities might need significant revision. So humans evolved in stronger gravity than most alien species experience. Humans evolved in gravitational conditions that most species would find crushingly oppressive, Zara confirmed, her note-taking now including detailed sketches of Elena's muscle and bone structure as visible through standard clothing. Which explains your extraordinary carrying capacity, but raises questions about how you function in standard galactic environments without suffering from reduced gravitational adaptation syndrome. Reduced gravitational adaptation syndrome. Muscle atrophy, bone density loss, and coordination difficulties that typically affect species adapted to high-gravity environments when they spend extended time in lower-gravity conditions. Zara looked up from her notes with expression that combined scientific fascination with genuine medical concern. Have you experienced any symptoms of gravitational adaptation stress since arriving at the station? Elena considered this, realizing that she had indeed felt unusually energetic and physically capable since arriving at the research station, though she'd attributed it to excitement about her new assignment rather than environmental factors. Actually, I felt remarkably good. Better than usual, really. That confirms it, Zara said, her bioluminescent patterns shifting to configurations that seemed to indicate a combination of scientific vindication and continued amazement. You are experiencing enhanced physical capability due to reduced gravitational stress. Your normal strength levels, which already exceed our species' maximum capacity, are actually being enhanced by environmental conditions. Elena looked at her research pack, which suddenly seemed absurdly light, then at the assembled Zephyrian researchers who were documenting what appeared to be their first encounter with someone whose evolutionary background had prepared them for conditions that exceeded galactic norms for habitability. So what you're telling me, Elena said slowly, is that by Zephyrian standards, humans are basically walking biological impossibilities who casually perform feats of strength that your species would consider superhuman. By galactic standards, Zara corrected, humans are biological anomalies adapted for environmental conditions that most species would find lethal, which explains why your carrying capacity, endurance levels, and general physical resilience exceed normal parameters by factors that suggest genetic enhancement or mechanical augmentation. Elena felt her scientific worldview performing several rapid adjustments as she realized that her species' physical capabilities, which she'd always considered perfectly normal, were apparently viewed by the rest of the galaxy as evidence of extreme evolutionary adaptation to hostile environmental conditions. This is going to make our comparative biology research significantly more interesting than I anticipated, she said, noting that Zara's expression suggested enthusiastic agreement with this assessment. Elena, Zara said, her voice carrying the excitement of a scientist who had just discovered a research opportunity that could redefine entire fields of study, would you be willing to participate in comprehensive physical capability documentation? Your biological characteristics could revolutionize our understanding of evolutionary adaptation possibilities. Comprehensive physical capability documentation. Detailed analysis of your strength, endurance, coordination, and metabolic efficiency compared to galactic norms for biological function, Zara explained, her enthusiasm making it clear that Elena had accidentally become the subject of potentially groundbreaking research. Though I should warn you that the testing protocols might seem absurdly simple by your species standards. Elena looked around at the Zephyrian researchers, all of whom were watching her with the kind of scientific interest usually reserved for discovering new laws of physics, and realized that her routine assignment to study alien biology had somehow become an opportunity for alien biologists to study her. "Well," she said, adjusting her research pack in a gesture that produced additional note-taking and what appeared to be concerned discussion about her joint stability under excessive load conditions, "I suppose if I'm going to be working here, I should understand how human physiology relates to galactic biological norms." "Excellent," Zara said, her bioluminescent response expressing satisfaction that suggested Elena had just agreed to participate in the most exciting research project of her career. "Though I should mention that some of our comparative tests might require you to demonstrate capabilities that could seem unusual to observers unfamiliar with human biological specifications." "Unusual how?" "Lifting objects that exceed Zephyrian capacity, carrying loads across distances that would require mechanical assistance for most species, and endurance demonstrations that might appear to violate known biological limitations." Zara's explanation suggested that Elena's participation in routine research station activities was going to be considerably more noteworthy than she'd anticipated. Elena realized that her assignment to study comparative alien biology was about to become a mutual research exchange where she was simultaneously scientist and research subject, studying others while being studied in return by colleagues who found her basic physical capabilities to be evidence of biological engineering that challenged their understanding of what normal life forms could accomplish. "I'm looking forward to learning what comparative biology research looks like when one of the research subjects accidentally represents biological impossibility," she said, her comment producing bioluminescent responses from her new colleagues that suggested her research partnership with Zara was going to be considerably more complex and fascinating than either of them had initially anticipated. Elena's first day of routine research activities at the Kepler station began with what Dr. Zara described as basic laboratory orientation, and what Elena experienced as accidentally violating approximately 17 different assumptions about normal biological function while trying to perform simple tasks like opening sample containers. The sealed containment units require significant force application to ensure proper specimen security, Zara explained, offering Elena a crystalline container that appeared to be designed for storing biological samples. Most researchers require mechanical assistance tools for the opening process. Elena accepted the container, noting that it felt unusually light and seemed to have some form of pressure lock mechanism around the lid. She twisted the top with what she considered minimal effort, and the container opened with a soft hiss that indicated successful depressurization. Zara stared at the opened container, then at Elena, then back at the container with an expression that suggested she'd just witnessed something that challenged fundamental laws of physics. "You opened it. Was I not supposed to?" Elena examined the container, noting that the mechanism seemed straightforward enough, though perhaps designed for beings with less grip strength than humans typically possessed. "Elena, that containment seal requires 15 newtons of rotational force to disengage. I can barely manage 8 newtons with maximum effort." Zara began taking notes on her ever-present data tablet, her bioluminescent patterns shifting to configurations that Elena was learning to associate with scientific fascination mixed with concern. "You applied nearly twice my maximum capability as if it required no effort whatsoever." 15 newtons doesn't sound like very much, Elena said, though she was beginning to understand that her instinctive assessment of "not very much" might not align with galactic standards for force application. 15 newtons is the standard maximum for equipment designed to be operated by most galactic species, Zara explained, beginning to gather additional containers of various sizes and seal strengths. "Could you attempt to open these additional specimens? For comparative analysis purposes?" Elena spent the next 30 minutes opening containers that ranged from what Zara described as moderate security to maximum containment protocols, all of which opened with what felt like reasonable effort despite Zara's increasingly detailed documentation of force applications that apparently exceeded station equipment design parameters. Elena, Zara said after watching her casually open a container marked with warnings in 7 different languages, that particular specimen storage unit is rated for containment breach prevention during emergency depressurization events. It's designed to remain sealed even if the station loses atmospheric integrity. But it opened normally, Elena observed, examining the emergency-rated container that had yielded to her grip strength without unusual resistance. It opened normally for someone whose grip strength exceeds emergency containment specifications, Zara corrected, her note-taking now including stress analysis calculations that seemed to involve complex mathematics about leverage and force multiplication. Which suggests that your hand strength alone could potentially overcome safety systems designed to prevent accidental specimen release during catastrophic station emergencies. Elena looked at her hands, which had never seemed particularly remarkable by human standards, with new appreciation for capabilities she'd never thought to consider. So my normal grip strength could potentially open containers that are supposed to remain sealed during space station disasters. Your normal grip strength could potentially open containers that are supposed to remain sealed during anything short of complete structural collapse, Zara confirmed, though her tone suggested professional excitement rather than alarm about Elena's safety system defeating capabilities. Which raises fascinating questions about human evolutionary pressures and survival adaptation requirements. Such as what environmental conditions would require evolution of grip strength sufficient to overcome emergency containment protocols designed for multi-species space habitation. Zara began setting up additional equipment that appeared to be designed for measuring various forms of physical capability. Would you be willing to participate in comprehensive strength assessment across multiple application categories? Elena looked around the laboratory, noting that several other Zephyrian researchers had joined their informal strength testing session and were observing her container opening demonstrations with the kind of fascination usually reserved for watching impossible magic tricks performed with scientific precision. Comprehensive strength assessment meaning what, exactly? Systematic measurement of grip strength, lifting capacity, leverage application, and endurance limits compared to station equipment design specifications and galactic biological norms. Zara activated monitoring equipment that looked like it had been designed to measure industrial machinery performance rather than biological capabilities. Though I should mention that some of the tests might seem absurdly easy by human standards. How absurdly easy? The maximum load-bearing test involves lifting 25 kilograms to chest height and holding the position for 30 seconds, Zara explained, indicating a weight that Elena could probably manage one-handed without significant strain. Most Zephyrian researchers require assistance to complete this assessment. Elena looked at the 25-kilogram test weight, then at the assembled alien scientists who were apparently preparing to document her attempt to lift what amounted to a moderately heavy suitcase by human standards. And you expect this to be challenging for me? We expect this to provide valuable data about the upper limits of human physical capability compared to galactic biological norms, Zara said diplomatically, though her expression suggested she was more interested in discovering whether Elena could exceed the test parameters than whether she could complete them. Elena approached the test weight, noting that it was equipped with handles and appeared to be designed for safe lifting by beings with significantly different physical capabilities than humans. She lifted it to chest height with movements that felt routine despite the increasingly detailed documentation being conducted by her alien audience. 30 seconds at chest height, she said, holding the position while noting that the assembled researchers seemed to be timing her performance with the precision usually reserved for measuring industrial equipment stress testing. Elena, Zara said after approximately 15 seconds of Elena maintaining the position without visible strain, are you experiencing any difficulty with this test? Not really. Should I be? Most species would be approaching muscle failure by this point in the assessment. Zara's monitoring equipment was apparently registering data that exceeded her expectations for the test parameters. Could you continue holding this position for extended time periods? Probably. This isn't particularly strenuous. Elena maintained the position while watching her audience document what appeared to be her casual violation of their testing protocol design assumptions. How long would you like me to hold it? Until you experience fatigue that would prevent you from continuing safely, Zara replied, though her tone suggested she was beginning to suspect that fatigue might not be a limiting factor within reasonable testing timeframes. Elena held the wait for what felt like several more minutes, during which the assembled researchers conducted increasingly detailed measurements and appeared to be recalibrating their equipment to account for performance levels that exceeded original test specifications. "This is quite comfortable," she said finally. "Are we gathering useful data, or should I try something more challenging?" The collective bioluminescent response from her audience suggested that her casual completion of their maximum strength assessment had provided more useful data than they'd anticipated, though possibly not in ways that confirmed their original hypotheses about biological capability norms. "Elena," Zara said, her voice carrying the excitement of someone whose research had just exceeded all expectations, "I believe we need to redesign our testing protocols to accommodate capabilities that our equipment was not designed to measure." Redesign meaning create tests that might actually challenge human physical capabilities. Redesign meaning create tests that can accurately document the extent to which human capabilities exceed galactic norms without requiring you to perform demonstrations that might seem absurd or potentially dangerous by your species standards. Zara began configuring equipment that looked considerably more sophisticated than the basic strength testing apparatus they'd been using. "Though I should warn you that accurate documentation might require testing at levels that could seem extreme by station safety standards." Elena realized that her routine research orientation had accidentally become comprehensive documentation of human physical capabilities that apparently challenged fundamental assumptions about biological possibility held by most galactic species. "Well," she said, setting down the test weight with movements that produced additional note-taking about her control and coordination during load management, "if we're going to establish accurate baseline data for human-alien comparative biology, I suppose we need to test at levels that actually represent meaningful challenges." "Excellent approach to scientific methodology," Zara replied, her bioluminescent patterns expressing satisfaction that suggested Elena's willingness to participate in expanded testing was exactly what her research project needed. "Though I should mention that some of our colleagues from other species have requested permission to observe the advanced capability assessments." "Other species" meaning? "Representatives from 6 different galactic civilizations who are interested in documenting human biological characteristics for comparative analysis and potential diplomatic implications." Zara's explanation suggested that Elena's physical capabilities were becoming a subject of broader scientific interest than just their local research project. "If you're comfortable with expanded observation of your performance assessments." Elena looked around the laboratory, which was apparently about to become the site of interspecies comparative biology research that would document human capabilities for analysis by multiple alien civilizations, and realized that her assignment to study alien biology had somehow evolved into an opportunity for alien biologists from across the galaxy to study the apparently remarkable characteristics of human evolutionary adaptation. "I suppose," she said, "if human physiology is going to be documented for interspecies comparative analysis, we might as well ensure the data is comprehensive and accurate." Comprehensive and accurate documentation of capabilities that challenge galactic assumptions about biological possibility, Zara agreed, her enthusiasm suggesting that Elena's research partnership was about to become considerably more complex and potentially significant than either of them had originally anticipated. The expanded interspecies capability assessment had attracted researchers from what Elena was learning represented most of the major galactic civilizations, all apparently eager to document human physical characteristics that seemed to challenge their understanding of biological possibility. What she hadn't expected was discovering that while her capabilities amazed them, their evolutionary adaptations were equally remarkable from her perspective. "Before we proceed with advanced human capability testing," announced Dr. Kethmore, a tall, crystalline being whose species apparently communicated through harmonic resonance, "we should establish comparative baselines by demonstrating the specialized capabilities that each species has developed through evolutionary adaptation." "Comparative baselines" meaning what exactly? Elena asked, noting that the assembled researchers represented at least 8 different species, each with distinctly different physical characteristics that suggested widely varied evolutionary pressures. "Meaning demonstration of the biological capabilities that each species considers normal, but which other species might find remarkable or impossible," Zara explained, her bioluminescent patterns shifting to configurations that seemed to indicate anticipation. For instance, Zephyrian electromagnetic sensitivity allows us to detect and manipulate energy fields that most species cannot perceive. Zara moved toward a control panel that Elena had assumed was operated through standard touch interfaces, but instead began generating patterns of bioluminescent light that caused the equipment to respond as if she were communicating directly with its control systems. You're interfacing with the technology through bioelectromagnetic communication? Elena asked, watching Zara operate complex equipment without physical contact through what appeared to be some form of biological wireless networking. Standard Zephyrian technology interaction, Zara replied, her light patterns becoming increasingly complex as she demonstrated navigation through system menus and data analysis functions that Elena had assumed required manual input devices. Most technology in our civilization is designed for direct bioelectrical interface rather than mechanical manipulation. That's. Elena paused, trying to process the implications of biological beings who had evolved natural wireless communication with their technology. That's extraordinary. You've essentially evolved into biological computers that can network with artificial systems. And you've evolved into biological construction equipment that can manipulate matter with forces that exceed our mechanical systems, Dr. Kethmore observed, his harmonic communication creating resonance patterns that Elena's enhanced hearing found surprisingly pleasant. Each evolutionary path represents adaptation to different environmental requirements. Dr. Yilthanes, whose spider-like appendages and compound eyes marked her as representative of an arthropod evolutionary line, began demonstrating coordination capabilities that involved simultaneously manipulating 12 different research instruments with precision that made Elena's two-handed dexterity seem almost primitive by comparison. Corvani's sensory processing allows for parallel information analysis across multiple data streams, Dr. Yilthanes explained, her compound eyes tracking dozens of different visual inputs while her appendages conducted what appeared to be several different experiments simultaneously. What other species experience as overwhelming sensory input, we process as normal environmental awareness. Elena watched Dr. Yilthanes conduct research activities that would have required a full team of human researchers working in coordination, while simultaneously monitoring Elena's biosigns and documenting Zara's technological interface demonstrations with the efficiency of someone whose nervous system had been designed for industrial-level multitasking. So while humans evolved exceptional physical capabilities, Elena said, beginning to understand the broader pattern of their comparative demonstrations, other species evolved different forms of exceptional capability that humans would find equally remarkable. Exactly, confirmed Dr. Veltar, whose aquatic physiology had been adapted for research through an environmental suit that maintained optimal moisture and pressure conditions. My species developed biological sonar capabilities that allow for three-dimensional environmental mapping with precision that exceeds most technological systems. Dr. Veltar demonstrated echolocation abilities that painted detailed acoustic pictures of the laboratory's contents, including structural analysis of equipment and materials that Elena realized exceeded anything human senses could achieve even with technological assistance. Each species represents a different solution to survival challenges, Zara observed, her continued bioelectromagnetic interface with the monitoring equipment allowing her to document all the capability demonstrations simultaneously. Humans developed physical strength and endurance for high-gravity survival. Zephyrians developed electromagnetic sensitivity for energy manipulation. Corvani developed sensory multiplicity for environmental complexity management. And our research collaboration combines these different evolutionary advantages for enhanced scientific capability, Elena realized, seeing their partnership in new terms that went beyond basic cultural exchange to genuine biological complementarity. Precisely. Your physical capabilities allow for fieldwork and sample collection that would be impossible for most of us, while our sensory and analytical capabilities provide data processing and technological interface options that exceed human limitations. Zara's bioluminescent patterns expressed satisfaction that suggested their collaboration was proving even more valuable than originally anticipated. Dr. Kethmore's harmonic communication created resonance patterns that apparently conveyed complex mathematical concepts directly through frequency modulation. Harmonic species communication allows for information transfer at rates that exceed verbal or written language by factors of approximately 50 to 1. Concepts that require extended explanation through words can be transmitted as experiential understanding through carefully modulated resonance. Elena felt her scientific worldview expanding as she realized that human verbal communication, which she'd always considered sophisticated, was apparently one of the slower and less efficient methods available to galactic civilization for information transfer. So our different evolutionary paths have created complementary capabilities that make interspecies research collaboration more effective than any single species could achieve alone, she said, watching the assembled researchers demonstrate biological capabilities that ranged from impossible to incomprehensible from a human perspective. Your participation in our research has demonstrated this principle more clearly than theoretical analysis could achieve, Dr. Yilthanes observed, her parallel processing allowing her to simultaneously analyze Elena's strength demonstrations, Zara's electromagnetic interfaces, and the harmonic data transfer from Dr. Kethmore. Human capabilities that seem excessive by our standards provide exactly the physical resource capacity that our research projects require, while our capabilities provide analytical and technological resources that human research would find invaluable. Elena began to understand that her exceptional physical capabilities were not biological anomalies, but rather specialized evolutionary adaptations that were as valuable for collaborative research as the specialized capabilities her alien colleagues had developed. This suggests that optimal research teams would combine representatives from multiple species to take advantage of different evolutionary capabilities, she said, noting that this observation produced bioluminescent, harmonic, and multitasking responses that all seemed to indicate enthusiastic agreement. Which is exactly what we are creating here, Zara said, her electromagnetic interface with the station's communication systems allowing her to coordinate with researchers across the galaxy in real time. Our collaboration is serving as a model for interspecies research partnership that maximizes the evolutionary advantages each species brings to scientific investigation. Elena realized that her assignment to study comparative alien biology had evolved into something much more significant, the development of research methodologies that could harness the combined evolutionary capabilities of multiple species for scientific advances that no single civilization could achieve alone. So we're not just documenting biological differences, she said. We're developing collaborative frameworks that turn evolutionary diversity into research advantages. We are proving that the galaxy's biological diversity represents untapped scientific potential rather than merely interesting academic curiosities. Dr. Kethmore's harmonic communication conveyed concepts that Elena's brain interpreted as profound satisfaction mixed with excitement about future possibilities. And your physical capabilities, Zara added, her bioluminescent response expressing affection alongside scientific appreciation, are not excessive by galactic standards. They are exactly what interspecies research collaboration needs to achieve investigations that would be impossible for any of us working alone. Elena looked around at her research partners, seeing them now not as alien colleagues whose capabilities exceeded her own, but as collaborators whose different evolutionary advantages complemented her human abilities in ways that created research possibilities none of them could achieve individually. Well then, she said, her voice carrying the enthusiasm of someone who had just discovered that her career was about to become considerably more interesting than she'd ever imagined, let's see what kind of scientific breakthroughs we can achieve by combining human strength with Zephyrian electromagnetic sensitivity, Corvani parallel processing, harmonic information transfer, and whatever other evolutionary advantages our colleagues can contribute. Now you are thinking like a true interspecies research collaborator, Zara replied, her bioluminescent patterns expressing joy that suggested their partnership had exceeded all her expectations for both professional and personal satisfaction. 6 months of collaborative interspecies research had transformed not only Elena and Zara's scientific understanding, but their approach to investigation itself, as their partnership had evolved into a model for how different evolutionary capabilities could be combined for research breakthroughs that exceeded what any single species could achieve alone. The deep core geological analysis project succeeded because your physical capabilities allowed sample collection from depths that would have been impossible for our species, Zara explained, reviewing data from their latest fieldwork expedition to the planet's high-pressure underground systems. while my electromagnetic sensitivity provided mineral composition analysis that your equipment could not have achieved. Elena studied the geological data that their partnership had collected, noting how Zara's bioelectromagnetic interface with the planet's natural energy fields had provided information about mineral structures and formation processes that complemented the physical samples Elena had been able to retrieve from locations that would have crushed most other species. And Dr. Yilthani's parallel processing allowed for simultaneous analysis of 17 different mineral samples, while Dr. Kethmore's harmonic communication provided direct interface with the planet's seismic patterns, Elena added, appreciating how their expanded research team had developed methodologies that utilized each species' evolutionary advantages. None of us could have completed this analysis working independently. The geological survey results have applications for planetary formation studies across 43 different star systems, Dr. Yilthani's reported, her multitasking capabilities allowing her to simultaneously coordinate with research teams throughout the galaxy while continuing local analysis work. Interspecies collaboration methodology is being adopted by research institutions across known galactic space. Elena felt a sense of professional satisfaction that went beyond individual achievement, realizing that their collaborative approach had influenced scientific methodology on scales that exceeded her original research ambitions. More importantly, Zara said, her bioluminescent patterns shifting to configurations that Elena had learned to associate with deep personal contentment, our partnership has demonstrated that species diversity enhances rather than complicates research effectiveness. How so? Your initial concern about your physical capabilities being excessive has been replaced by understanding that such capabilities provide exactly the research capacity that our investigations require, Zara explained, her electromagnetic interface with the data systems allowing her to pull up comprehensive analysis of their collaboration results. While our capabilities that initially seemed remarkable to you have become natural components of our shared research methodology. Elena realized that her perspective on both her own abilities and those of her colleagues had undergone fundamental transformation through their partnership. What had initially seemed like impossible biological diversity had become complementary scientific resources. The xenobiology documentation project results exceed all original research parameters, Dr. Veltar reported through his aquatic communication interface, his biological sonar providing structural analysis of specimen organization that complemented their other analytical methods. Interspecies research collaboration has produced data quality and investigation depth that single-species research teams could not achieve. And the cultural impact, added Dr. Kethmore, his harmonic communication conveying concepts about diplomatic and social implications that Elena's brain processed as profound satisfaction, has been to demonstrate that biological diversity represents collaborative advantage rather than communication barrier. Elena looked around their research facility, which had been reconfigured to accommodate the different environmental and technological requirements of their multi-species team, and realized that their workspace had become a model for how different civilizations could combine their evolutionary advantages for mutual benefit. Our research has practical applications beyond scientific methodology, she observed. We've created frameworks for interspecies cooperation that could influence diplomatic and cultural exchange programs. Exactly, Zara agreed, her bioluminescent response expressing excitement about implications that went far beyond their original research objectives. Our partnership proves that species differences enhance collaboration rather than hindering it, which has applications for everything from diplomatic negotiations to joint infrastructure projects. The Galactic Research Consortium has requested detailed documentation of our collaborative methodologies for implementation across member species, Dr. Yilthani's reported, her parallel processing allowing her to access consortium communications while maintaining their local discussion. Our approach is being studied as a model for optimizing interspecies scientific cooperation. Elena felt her understanding of her role in galactic civilization undergoing another fundamental shift, as she realized that her participation in xenobiology research had accidentally contributed to developments in interspecies relations that could influence galactic politics and cultural exchange for generations. So our research partnership has become a case study in how biological diversity can be leveraged for collaborative advantage, she said, noting that this observation produced positive responses across all the communication methods her colleagues used. More than a case study, Zara corrected, her electromagnetic interface with galactic communication networks providing real-time updates on how their work was being implemented elsewhere. Our methods are being adapted by research teams, diplomatic missions, and cultural exchange programs across 17 different galactic regions. And personally, Elena added, realizing that their professional collaboration had also created personal connections that exceeded her expectations for interspecies friendship, our partnership has provided me with perspectives on biology, research methodology, and collaborative problem-solving that I never could have developed working with only human colleagues. The personal satisfaction of our collaboration, Zara replied, her bioluminescent patterns expressing warmth that needed no translation, has been discovering that genuine partnership transcends species differences and creates possibilities for understanding that neither of us could have achieved alone. Elena looked at Zara, whose combination of scientific brilliance and personal friendship had transformed her research career in ways she was still discovering, and realized that their accidental meeting had led to both professional breakthroughs and personal connections that would influence the rest of her life. Your initial amazement at human physical capabilities, Elena said, remembering Zara's incredulous questions about carrying capacity and strength applications, led to research collaboration that has influenced scientific methodology across galactic civilization. And your initial concern about being biologically excessive, Zara replied, led to understanding that what appears impossible to one species may be exactly what interspecies collaboration needs to achieve breakthrough results. Dr. Yilthani's multitasking capabilities allowed her to simultaneously coordinate their next research project while documenting their current results for galactic distribution. Next phase research involves comparative ecosystem analysis across 12 different planetary environments, requiring combination of human physical access capabilities, Zephyrian electromagnetic analysis, Corvani parallel processing, harmonic environmental interface, and aquatic ecosystem expertise. A project that would be impossible for any single species to complete, but which our collaborative approach makes feasible, Elena realized, seeing their future research in terms of continued partnership that would push the boundaries of what interspecies cooperation could achieve. Feasible and potentially revolutionary for understanding how life develops across different environmental conditions, Zara added, her enthusiasm for their continued collaboration evident in bioluminescent patterns that expressed both professional excitement and personal affection. Elena realized that her assignment to study comparative alien biology had led not only to scientific breakthroughs, but to personal growth and interspecies friendship that had exceeded every expectation she'd had for her research career. Well then, she said, looking at her research partners whose different evolutionary capabilities had become as familiar and valuable to her as her own human abilities, let's continue demonstrating that biological diversity creates collaborative advantages that benefit everyone involved. Continue demonstrating that species differences are resources for partnership rather than barriers to overcome, Zara agreed, her bioluminescent response expressing satisfaction that their collaboration would continue developing in ways that served both scientific advancement and personal fulfillment. Elena understood that her initial shock at being considered physically exceptional had led to discovery that every species possessed capabilities that other species found remarkable, and that genuine scientific collaboration required appreciating rather than minimizing such differences. Her partnership with Zara and their expanded research team had proven that biological diversity was a strength to be leveraged rather than a challenge to be overcome.